Welcome back, everybody. Chodesh Tov. We will be learning Tzidkas Hatzadik Ois Pei. And the Shiur has been dedicated by Mrs. Ruthie Harris, that's Gil's mother. Mrs. Ruthie Rubenstein, apologize. In honor, memory of her mother, Mindel Bas Meir Eliezer. Minna Bas Mendel Eliezer, she said both. Shoma should have an aliyah. Apologize for the name. I'm starting with Ois Pei, and I started looking at it actually a couple of days ago, and I realized I'm not sure what it all means. So let's work it out together. I have Talmidei Chachamim here. But Rabbi Tzadok says as follows: Tikkun lachas. If a person has a problem with anger, how do you do a tikkun on that? How do you fix that? Shinui makom. It's by changing your place, your geographical location, your makom. If I wanted to say it like sermonically, I would say change your position, change your outlook, but that's not what he means. He means shinui makom, change your place. Actually change your place. How do we know this? K'maisha amra Torah, because the Torah says, Golus l'roitzeach, that if someone kills somebody else, b'shogeg, that's severe, you kill somebody else, so if you killed him b'mezid and there's edim, so you go in front of a Sanhedrin and you're chayiv misa. If you killed him b'shogeg, so now the onesh and the kapara and the protection all in one is you go to an ir miklat. These are designated cities in Eretz Yisrael and even Ever Liam. You go to one of these designated cities. Probably a lot of Levium actually lived in these cities in the ir miklat, and there you stay. If you don't go into the ir miklat, you're without protection. If you don't go into one of these protected cities, you're without any protection. And now the next of kin of the guy who was murdered, the Nirtzach, is called the Goel Hadam, and that Goel Hadam can come after you, and if he kills you, he's patur. But he doesn't go, it's protected, he doesn't go into the Ir Miklat, he's not allowed to go into the Ir Miklat, he's not allowed to kill anybody in the Ir Miklat, and therefore there's a protection services offered by the Levium in the Ir Miklat, and that's where he goes if you kill, that's where one goes if they killed somebody b'shogeg. Killing somebody b'shogeg, you had a car accident and you killed somebody b'shogeg. Huh? Oh, so the question is, this is the part. I understand all of this from Tzadok except for this first sentence. The first sentence is, Tikkun l'kas shinui makom. How do we know that if a person has kas, if a person has an anger problem, or you got angry, or you are angry, how do you know how to do a tikkun? What tikkun do you do? You go into golus, you change makom, change your makom, move, make aliyah. And how do we know this? We know this because a rotzeach b'shogeg goes into golus. So the question is, Makesher. It was the Goel Adam.
If it was amazing, then I'd say, okay, that's connected to anger. But this is a guy who was speeding.
He was speeding. Yeah. Maybe.
Actually, the first time it says to go to the miklat in Mishpatim, it doesn't say nothing about Goel Adam. It says only if you look him in
That's right. You know, from there we learned that the Ir Miklat has a couple of purposes. One of them is that it's mechaper, and the other one is that it protects him. So those are two different things. It's not even about the Goel Adam necessarily. But the point is, what was he angry? From anger, we see that when a person's angry, you change what places. Why do you change places? Because you see a person who kills somebody b'shogeg goes into the Ari Miklat. Okay, maybe. So al karchach. So, but you know he's missing the main. He's missing the main. What would you say?
That the person who kills b'shogeg is angry at God. Why did you do this to me?
You mean now he's angry? Not that he killed in anger.
That's the problem.
And his tikkun for dealing with that, I don't know what the tikkun is, but I'm saying
It might be right. It might be right.
Kills b'shogeg is
No, the only thing is that like
There's no
he's missing the main sentence. That's what's bothering. It might be that.
You can also put if im lakim in al yodo, it's like midas adin. Lakim like controls him and gives him power to do this thing. So he's like midas din controlled. Then he can go to your miklat and then you escape this.
Therapy.
Over here.
What do you say?
If this is what he was trying to say earlier, but the Goyal Adam is the one who's angry because his relative has been killed, and if you want to flee from that anger of the Goyal Adam, you got to get yourself into the Ir Miklat. Is that what you were trying to say earlier? No. Okay, well, I'm saying that.
We're fleeing from anger.
Fleeing from the
No,
anger.
but that's not the subject here. Tikkun lakas shinu makrin.
So what is a tikkun for Balkas? That he should be coming out, heads up, flowers. Like, what is his tikkun? Like, he has to
Move.
calm. No, but how do we reflect the tikkun in a Balkas? He's no longer an angry person, or he gets in the same situation and he deals with.
I mean, how do we know he's mesukan?
Yeah.
Is there a show? Is it defined as a shogeg connection to the past you can't control, and then you need to somehow change? Rambam says shinui makom chugos.
So don't give a shiur. I'm just asking, what do you think the pshat, a connection from kas to this? Yeah. Okay. So let's. No. I just want to. Let me just say a couple of yedias and yesodos, and maybe Hashem will help it'll be clear. Number one is just a halachic yediah. Horeg b'shogeg goes into gullus. There's not always. The Gemara says in the Rambam Paskins that there's three kinds of shogeg and only one goes into gullus. There's a shogeg that somebody, you killed somebody, b'shogeg, where it was karav lamezid. Karav lamezid, like I didn't realize I was going to kill him maybe, or I was angry, I was beating him up, I shot him, I ended up killing him, but that's karav lamezid. I don't want to kill him, but maybe let's call it second-degree murder or something like that. I have no idea what second-degree murder is, but something like that. It's not their first-degree murder, where you take a gun, you shoot somebody in the head, and there's two Adam watching. And so that doesn't go into gullus. Gullus does not help for him. There's also a case of a shogeg karav lo'inus. So shogeg karav lo'inus is you just had no involvement at all with this ritzicha, not even speeding. You were just driving, and somebody runs out from the sidewalk, and you killed them. Korechas v'shalom. So this is nothing. He doesn't go into the Ir Miklat either. So the only one who goes into the Ir Miklat is this kind of in between level where you killed somebody b'shogeg, but you should have been more careful. Rambam says shalai nizhar. You should have been more careful, and since you should have been more careful, so let's say the Gemara's case, I'm climbing up a ladder, the rung falls, I fall on a guy and I kill him. So if I jumped on the guy, so that might be either a shogeg or a mezid. It depends on the situation. If you you just had no idea, you're walking the steps broke is one thing. But if you should have checked your ladder and made sure that it's better, so that's, just give me a second, that's a shogeg, the type of shogeg. It's actually kind of a rare case where, I don't think the Ir Miklat were so populated. How many people kill people, but I know somebody who killed somebody b'shogeg. Yeah, and he was driving his car, and in the United States he was driving his car, and his kids were acting up in the back, so he turned around to scream at his kids or something, and boom, killed somebody, a councilman. Happened to be a councilman. Doesn't make a difference what he was, but it means you got him into bigger trouble, and he went to jail for years, huh? certainly it had kas, but the kas wasn't right. So it could be like one of the big in between levels. I'm just saying halachically, is you're in a matzav where you're not being careful. So a matzav you're not being careful means a matzav of you're not in control correctly, and so too is a angry person. So an angry person is not in control, really. Meaning there's a normal when your mind and your emotion is working correctly, you have an emotion like I want to kill the guy, and then you don't. You process the emotion, and it becomes normalizes. Everybody has all kinds of. I'm not saying we're thinking about killing people, but this guy, by the way, just while I'm here, I would have told you once, like he asked me. I was visiting Israel. I knew the story. He's a good guy, by the way, Tzadok. I mean, a wonderful guy. But he asked me if he can go speak to. It was out of finished with jail, finished with every. If I can get him in to speak to Rav Scheinberg, because he just needed to. This was driving him crazy, that he killed somebody. So I said sure. So I walked in and Rav Scheinberg was surrounded by people. So like in the office, there, he was surrounded by people. And he was very embarrassed by the whole situation. So he leans over and he tells Rav Scheinberg very quickly the story. And Rav Scheinberg said, "I can't hear. I can't. He was already old. He couldn't hear." So the guy's embarrassed to say it too loudly, and because send 10 people out of the room. So he says it louder, and Rav Scheinberg says, "Sorry, I can't hear." So, he doesn't want to say it any louder because he doesn't want to be any embarrassed. He doesn't know what to do. So, was Rabbi Yisrael Altuski. I don't know if you know him. So he said, maybe tell me the story and I'll tell him the story because he's used to my voice and he'll be able to hear me better. Okay, so that's what he did. And he whispered it into Rav Scheinberg's ear. And Rav Scheinberg picks up his head in front of everybody and says, "You killed the guy?" Okay. I watched this happen. Allah makom kapara. For anything, okay, just telling you the story because I will never have the opportunity to tell you that story again. But the thing is, halachically speaking, we can say perhaps that kas is a situation of out of control. And the guy who kills b'shogeg, that rare middle case of a person who kills b'shogeg, is also not in full control of a situation. And therefore, just like this guy goes to a golus, to ir miklat, so too does this fellow have to change makom. It's a little bit pushed. Let's take it a steep step further to what you said. Kalustas.
We say that the person shaves something in public that he likes to steal the blood and kills him.
B'shogeg or b'mezid?
So yeah, that's amazing that he's not quoting about it. And here, because he's doing it b'shogeg, so he's killing him b'shogeg.
Yeah. Let me just mention what you mentioned. The Rambam says, the Rambam, paraphrasing his tshuva, says, I don't know if I'm quoting it word for word, but pretty much. The Rambam tells us how to do tshuva. You have to have charat on the avar and kabbalah on the asid, and you say vidui, and the Rambam goes through the Seder HaTshuva. Very important Rambam, but out of season, it's cheshvan. But then he says another thing. He says, umidarke hatshuva. So it's a different thing. This is not what you have to do tshuva. It's darke hatshuva, a person who becomes a Baal tshuva. These are the kind of things that he should do, he does do. This is what we find with the real Baalei tshuva do. And he says it more than these words, but this is what he says. He says, bidarke hatshuva is really four things. First of all, you should give tzedakah. The person to get to the naver should give tzedakah. That's good for the nefesh. But then he says, and the three important things is Shinui Makoim, Shinui Maisa, and Shinui Hashem. Those are the three things that he calls. He calls it Shinui, Shinui, Shinui. So about tshuva, this Midarkei tshuva, person should change places. A person should change maisim. Well, obviously you should change maisim because the Mishnah asks right on the spot, well, that's part of doing tshuva, you have to change your maisim. No. Says the Kesef Mishnah, other maisim, other things. It's not about changing necessarily, okay, I'm going to stop killing people. No, it's like you should change your lifestyle, change your maisim. And thirdly, you should change your name, which the Mefarshim there learn, like maybe your title. You don't go from Joe to John, but like maybe your title, like you should change.
From mystic to
Doctor.
Change to become a doctor. I am now a rabbi. Yeah. So the Mefarshim learn. This was based in the Gemara. The Mefarshim learn that Shinui Makoim, Shinui Maisa, Shinui Hashem. Let's just think about this. This is all very deep stuff. Shinui Makoim is Golus. I change places. I go into Golus. What does Golus do for you? What does Golus do for you? A Shinui Maisa, in my understanding from learning the Rishonim, this is a Chiddush, a Shinui Maisa is you change your habits. There's something to be said for just not everything becoming habitual. Mitzvahs hanashim ulamada, even mitzvahs shouldn't be habitual. So there's an idea of, somebody once told me that a psychologist actually said that he smoked for years and years. He smoked and he wanted to stop smoking. So okay, you stop smoking. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to smoke. There's all kinds of things you could. Hypnotism is like things that you could do. He didn't want to smoke. So he said that he decided that the right way to do this is every time he felt like having a cigarette, he's going to go take a walk. So it was a Shinui Maisa. It's a very deep thing, because what happens is, I'm sure he got a lot of exercise if he was really a smoker, a lot of walking. But the point is this. The point is that your taiva, let's say, is telling you to smoke, and now you have to react to it. You have to react to it, but react differently. Train yourself to react differently than you would normally react. So the shot in Shinui Maisa is just change your habits. A habit is in general a very interesting thing. It's, in other words, that you've trained your mind to do something habitually. Is that good or is it bad? Well, you could have a habit to be polite. That's good. But you could have bad habits. You could have good habits. So, but the habit is skipping a part of your brain. So Shinui Maisa is like a reprogramming of the brain, and Shinui Hashem has to do with kavod. It has to do with kavod.
That's not Shinui Makoim.
So I want to talk about Shinui Makoim. Shinui Makoim, or Golus, which Avraham Avinu, Lech Lecha, Bnei Yisrael went to Golus Bavel. Maybe because of what you're saying, the Sinas Chinam and all the Mevayish of the Barabim, but there was obviously a Chiyuv Golus, and then there's personal Golus. Who was the first person to go into Golus? Adam Arishan. Adam Arishan, he was sent out of Gan Eden. Incidentally, something that I saw in some of the Rishonim just last week was that it's not that Adam Arishan was never out of Gan Eden. Like, here was life, and there's this whole world out there that would never be populated. No, he went in and out of the Gan all the time, but he had a privilege to go into the Gan, like a pass, he had this business class pass that he was able to go into the lounge, and there was an Eitz Hadas, and he said, go in there and eat. You can do whatever you want inside the gan. And then he was got blocked from the gan for misbehavior. Interesting, just an interesting way of looking at the world. Was a world, the world would have been a world, the world is there, but we're locked out of this gan. What happens when we're locked out of the gan? So I want to say something here. The Rishonim ask, almost everybody, the Ramban, everybody asks, like, when Adam and Rishon ate from the Eitz Hadas, Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas, so Hashem said, Mois Tamus, you're going to die. But he didn't die. He didn't die, he lived many, many years. So some say, well, there would never have been a concept of Misa in the world had he not eaten from the Eitz Hadas, meaning what? That the world would have hundreds of billions of people, endless amount of people, nobody would ever die. The Ramban says, Yev Shalom, that's his words. It's not fathomable that Hashem created the world, and after all, there's Olam Haba, and there's all kinds of a better world than this world. So nobody's going to die. Is that even a bracha that nobody's going to die? So that the Rabbah doesn't like that pshat. And the Rishonim say different pshatim. And what did Hashem mean when he said to him, die? You're going to die eventually. Maybe you would have lived longer. Now you're going to die. A lot of different pshatim. I'm sure you're familiar with it. I saw something in Rav Shamshin Raphael Hirsch, which struck me. He said that what is dying anyway? Dying is going from a familiar situation to an unfamiliar situation, and we're all petrified of it. This idea of going to this kind of an unknown place. I mean, we hear nice things, hopefully, about Olam Haba, but it's me. Even a person like Lech Lecha, somebody said Avraham Avinu, even a person who goes from a community to another community is petrified. What am I going to find? What are the people going to be? How's it going to be? How am I going to make a living? How am I going to this? Where's the stores? It's a frightening situation. And that's what dying is. When Adam HaRishon was locked out of the Gan, this is what Hirsch says, when Adam HaRishon was locked out of the Gan Eden, it was a death in the sense that he went from a situation where he was familiar, he knew how to eat, everything was available to him, everything was good. He went to a place where, how am I supposed to, Kotz v'dardar, how am I supposed to eat? How am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to have children and procreate? How am I going to make a civilization out here? He went from, and that's like death. So when this is what Rav Hirsch says, it's a very novel pshat, I think, that when Hashem told Adam HaRishon Mos Tamus, no, you can no longer just live in your own familiarity. And this is what death is, and this is what Golus is. What happens with Golus, let's talk about Golus Bavel. Here we are in Eretz Yisrael since the time of Yoshua ben Nun. All the way through the whole Tanakh, we're in Eretz Yisrael. And all of a sudden we have to leave Eretz Yisrael. So it's not just about that there was suffering and there was hunger and we lost our homes. But where are we going? We're going into this abyss. We're going into this unknown territory. How are we supposed to be there? Are they going to accept us? How are we going to live in Bavel? That was the Gzeira of Golus was a Gzeira of Bisa. So just to make this connection between going into our miklat is also a type, you killed somebody and it's a type of Misa. You're walking into a place which is no longer home. It's a type of Misa, like Misa light. You don't get killed Lagamri, but you're going into a place where you don't, like, where am I supposed to live? Where do you want me to sleep? What am I supposed to eat? Like it's an unfamiliar, it was a type of Misa. A personal Golus is a type of Misa. Misa is, by the way, Mechaper. That's why Golus is Mechaper, the Ar Miklat is Mechaper. It's a type of... Chavrus, Misa is very good. What? I'm sorry. Chai Sham. What happens with when the Kohen Gadol's mother dies? So the Rambam says in Meir Nevuchim, everybody calms down when the Kohen, like, in other words, the tragedy of the Kohen Gadol's mother, we know she brought food for the tragedy of the death of a great person, takes all the Goel Adams, calms them down. I don't know how that works. But okay, it has to be some time where you get out of jail. Even jail has this inyan of a misa to some extent. And in other words, you just, like people like to talk about how good it is in jail. I don't know if you hear that. I hear that. Like, there's a daf yomi. But it's not, like you have a restriction of movement. But mostly it's just, this is not my life. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not how one lives their life. So Misa, says Hirsch, is this type of unfamiliarity. Let me say another thing, that the Gra says it's a Mishlei, and Reb Tzadok repeats it often, and then I found that it's a Zohar. The following is a Zohar. That all midos ros, the Kohen says this at the beginning of Mishlei, all midos ros that a person can have, make your own list, are either they're in one of two categories. Then the Reb Tzadok says three. They're one of two categories. Either they're part of loy sirtzach, or they're part of loy sinaf. Even though you're not actually doing ritzicha, it's like you said, if you embarrass somebody in public, this is a type of, it goes under the lo sirtzach category. We have to think about why. But if my avera or my midah, let's say, is a midah of taiva, it's all about taiva. I can't resist eating that cheeseburger or whatever the taiva might be. So that's a different that's a different category of chet. So there's the chet. It's like if one is nichshal in a chet, you speak lashon hara. So you ask yourself, like, what was that? Why did I do that? So was that ritzicha, or was that taiva? You're saying halachically, or you understand it as ritzicha? You're diminishing another human being.
You're not getting any personal hana. It's not a taiva that, I just love talking about. It's just like I'm cutting somebody else down, and I'm elevating myself through that. That's an anger.
Right. I found the Zohar, and the Zohar says that, I thought this was a Gra. It's a Zohar. So the Zohar says that, in more Aramaic language, but the Rosh of all Midos is Lo Sirtzach and Lo Sinaf. By the way, Reb Tzadok says also Lo Signov is a big one. Like, this is violating boundaries, but let's leave it for a moment. But he says that's the head of, and what it is Lo Sirtzach. This lashon is the lashon of the Zayar. Lo Sirtzach is Lo Sirtzach, Lo Sinaf. Let's say Ritzicha and Taiva. So Lo Sirtzach is the psilus of. Lo Sirtzach comes from Esav. And Lo Sinaf comes from Yishmael. We know this. This is Zayar doesn't say I'm saying, but we know this because we know that when Hashem offered the Torah to the nations of the world, so he said to Esav, "Do you want the Torah?" And he says, it says in there, "Lo sirtzach al charba chatichim." My whole bracha is lo sirtzach. When it came to Yishmael, you look at the difference between Chazal and Medrash Rabbah and the Yalkut Shimoni. One of them says that, what do you mean? It says in the Torah lo sinaf, and another one says it says lo signov. It says two different girsas of lo sinaf or lo signov. I guess Yishmael does both, lo signov and lo sinaf. But it was impossible to be makabel the Torah. But the lashon is very strong because kol atzmoisai ritzicha, kol atzmoisai niyuf. Like, this is what I am. It's my bracha. Al charba chatichia, that's my bracha. I'm a rotzeach. The Zohar calls it. This is what I wanted to quote to you. That ritzicha is psoiles of Yitzchak. This is like so important. And Loisinaf is psoiles de Avraham. May I explain this? That Avraham Avinu, because there's such a kesher between good and bad. It's so dakas, the good and the bad. Avraham Avinu was a huge Baal Chesed, famous Baal Chesed. He did only Chesed. But that means that he violated boundaries, or he crossed boundaries, let's put it that way. Peacenik, right? He crossed boundaries. But the danger, or the Lashon Desire, the psoilus of Ava is Loisinaf, is Taiva. Logical, no? In other words, when you love people too much, I guess, right? Yitzchak was a very strong, like, Gevura Yitzchak. And Yitzchak, the psoilus Gevura is a good thing, just like Avraham Avinu's Ava was a good thing, and Chesed was a good thing. So you have Chesed, Gevura. We're looking for Tiferes always. But you have Chesed and you have Gevura. So the psoilus of the Gevura of Yitzchak, he was willing to let himself be killed by the Akedah, is Esav. Is, in other words, this comes Yitzchak, Esav, no. So Ochar b'chatichya is from Esav, which is the Gevura of Yitzchak. Did I say wrong? And the Ochar b'chatichya and the Chesed, or the Losinaf of Yishmael, is the psoilus of Avraham Avinu.
Where's the meisim of the tithe?
Of what?
Where's the meisim of the tithe of Yishmael? Did you see that?
Para Adam. Yishmael was a para Adam. What is a para Adam? Yadoi bakol, b'yad kol boy. Malach said that. What does it mean he was a para Adam? So a para Adam means you leave your boundaries.
That's tithe, not the tzich.
That's right. That you leave your boundaries, like a pre. Every time you find pei reish in the whole Tanakh, it's talking about something like this sprouting out. That's what it means. Perush. Para Adam. Para Adam is that he didn't stick with the normative boundaries of life. So, Leisirtzach Leisinav. I was thinking like Kina V'Hataiva. So it comes out like this. This is my my point. That if Kas, if Lois Sirtzach is the head of all those, that sort of a category of Averis, the deep part of Lois Sirtzach, let's talk about it, B'mezid, is Kas. Kas is clearly in the Lois Sirtzach, not in the Lois Sinaf family, is clearly in the Lois Sirtzach family. Why is it? Because when a person is Bekas, I think you said this before, you become detached. You become, what's happening when a person loses their temper? Exactly those words, loses their temper. Think about the words. A person has a temper, and I lost it. So it means that I know what I should do, and normally I'm behaved correctly, and Rabbi's machshavos b'leivish, but at the end of the day, I'm be careful, and this is what a ben Torah is. I'm careful what I say. I process everything. I don't say things that are going to hurt other people. I don't kill people because I don't like them. But if a person loses their temper, what's going on over there is that you've like short-circuited. You've taken something, a feeling, and you've turned it into an action without processing it through the whatever part of the brain that's called. It's something got wrong over here. This is what happens with anger, and one has to. That's what happens with Ritzicha. Let's say Ritzicha b'mezid, but that's the category of Ritzicha, is what I'm saying. The category of Ritzicha is the same category as anger. The category of ir miklat, golus, shinui makom that the Rambam says is all this also kind of a misa, this detachment to what's comfortable for you, what makes you feel good, and pushes you into a new spot. This is not only protecting the person, but it's rehabilitating a person in the sense that, look before you leap, think before you talk. So this is how it could possibly be that that if you embarrass somebody, you're over ritzicha. It might not only be that you've embarrassed the person and now he's a nirtzach. That's certainly what the Pashat of Pshat in the Gemara is. But I did a ma'aser ritzicha. And if you do a b'shoigeg, you do a b'shoigeg. You're also in that family. And I go back to what the Rambam says, and the Rambam says that if you're a shogeg karav lo'inus, you don't go and sit here. You don't need to go to gullus. If you're a karav l'mezid, we have you go to jail or something. You do something else. Check the edim. You stand in front of it's karav l'mezid. It's karav l'mezid. Who's running into this gullus or to this ir miklat? Who's changing? This is the person who was detached for moments. It's like kas, in the sense that kas becomes kas and ritzicha. Those are the avos of not being able to process, not of losing it. I lost it, and by the way, just like loisirtzach, it's hard to undo, impossible to undo. It's also very difficult to undo kas sometimes. It's even if you make up with a person, you like if you lose it. Like there's kas, the Aruch HaSiddikim talks about kas hamuteres, but that's like a fake kas. A real kas, even if you make up with the person or with your children or with your spouse, it's very difficult to, once you lost it, you lost it. It's a very difficult, I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I'm just saying that, like mikan halaba, it's not such a good idea to lose it. Whereas, it's like babies, you're hungry, you cry. Get angry. They don't have the processing equipment, the filtration system to not do it. But once you're a bardas, we do have that ability to correct this. So what I'm saying is the ritzicha is goyrim maves. Let's say ritzicha b'mezid. So he's chayiv misa. Ritzicha b'shoigeg is you're in the category of kas. I think this is what Rav Tzadok means. Maybe you're in the category of kas. Not that you're dafka b'kas, but if you're in this uncontrolled situation in general, like kas, so your answer is to go to gullus. So why is gullus the answer? Because you learn how to live without your comfort features and without your control. In other words, like the tikkun, as he puts it, for you, is to get out of your comfort zone. Because the comfort zone is making you too comfortable, and you're saying whatever you want to say, and you're doing whatever you want to do. Ad kedei ritzicha. So there's this sort of like carelessness that's going on. It's probably the right word for all this middle category at Rambam, careless. So which again is what a good word that is. Like that's what shogeg. Well, there's a shogeg karav la'onus, so that's not carelessness. You said the example, I don't know if you meant it with its full depth, all I was doing was speeding. But speeding, let's say, is carelessness. You get a ticket for that, and it's so the carelessness, carelessness is this kind of like a detachment. So let's just read a little bit. The Kehillas Shivtei Yeshurun, and it's going to have to be next week, is that being that, let's talk about kas, or even ritzicha, being that it really comes, and consider this before we leave, being that it really comes from a good place, coming from Yitzchak Avinu. Let's say a person's a kanoi. So it's really coming from a good place. So the ritzicha, the gullus is there, he explains, he's going to explain this, is there to rehabilitate a person, not to get rid of the kas, but to use the kas correctly. So, example, that the Gemara says in Tainus, this is one example. that hai tzurba mirabanan de kamarasach lav iu de kamarasach aloi raisa de kamaraschabe. Is that a mouthful? You see it's tzurba mirabanan. Rashi says so interestingly. Rashi in Titan stuff. Hey, Rashi says it's tzurba mirabanan. What is that? It's a yeshiva bacher. Now, Rashi points out we're talking about an underdeveloped Talmud Chacham. Underdeveloped Talmud Chacham. He's not there yet, but Shiva Bacher. That's what he says. As opposed to a Tzurba Mirabanan is different than Ahu Mirabanan. Rashi says, well, Mirabanan is you're seasoned. You were ready to get out of the cooker, but a Tzurba Mirabanan you'll find a lot of times they'll get angry about things. Fire, Eish. Roteach. So the Gemara says, give the guy a break, because lav iu de kamarasach, eloi raisa de kamarasach be. It's not him that's on fire; it's the Torah within him that's on fire. And so many examples. It's full of fire. Now, don't let him out, because you're not ready for the world, but give him a pass. That's what the Gemara says. Right? Don't be makpid on him, because it's a natural, good thing. And even by a humer rabbanon, the Gemara says in a different place that as vahiv basufa, that two Talmidei Chacham arguing and learning, they can become oivim, enemies. Zelozeh. Avaloyet say they know not to leave the conversation. Achnase ohavim zelozes vahev basufa. It's in other words, the seasoning here is not that I don't get angry anymore. If you don't get angry anymore, you don't get excited about things anymore, you're not passionate about things, then you're dead. It's supposed to get passionate about things, but it has to be. You're not supposed to kill people. This is the thing. You have to kill people for your passion, and you can't get out of control for your passion. So this is what Reb Tzadok actually does here in typical Reb Tzadok fashion, and we will go through a Bezras Hashem together, as he says that it's a good thing. Don't lose it. If you got angry, go to the or miklat, sit down with one of the Levium, learn some Torah, and channel your anger in a way of Torah and develop. So what you're talking about when a person is kas, a person is bekas, that's good turned bad. So that's what happened with Esav. Same thing is with Yishmael. What happens with Yishmael is that he inherited from Avraham Avinu as a son. He inherited from Avraham Avinu a tremendous amount of ahava, a tremendous amount of chesed, and it turned sour and he became para adam, because once there's no boundaries, then you're para adam. So what are you going to do? Don't teach him how to hate. That's not the answer. Reb Tzadok says in a different place, I must have mentioned this many times, that if you're a fundraiser, and you want to know who's going to give you like a big donation and who's not going to give you a big donation, he says look for a Baal Taiva. Baal Taiva, does it ring true to anybody? I'm a fundraiser, it does, it's true. You look for the guy who's the foodie, who likes to enjoy Olam Hazeh, a person who's always surrounded with comforts, and that person will be about tzedakah also, because it's just a positive and negative side of the same midah of gregarious, just chesed. And on the other hand, like if a person is full of gevura, so that comes from Yitzchak. Make no mistake, that comes from Yitzchak. So if you see somebody's a kanoi and he's getting angry at everybody, learn how to do something with it, but don't get rid of it. Don't get rid of it. Yeah. Right. But don't go to for tzedakah, right? Exactly.